Hey everyone, thank you for clicking on this link today. So we have some big Juan Soto news. The Red Sox had a meeting with Juan Soto early this week. We're finally getting some reports from what that meeting could have looked like, and there is a lot to talk about when it comes to the proposal that the Red Sox are making for Juan Soto if he were to join the Red Sox organization. So let's hop right into that really quick. I don't want to keep you guys waiting because there is some big stuff in here you're not going to want to miss. So the main focus of this video is going to be based around this article that was released by the Sporting News. This was pumped out about 11 hours ago. It says the Red Sox rumored to have pitched a super team idea to the $600 million superstar Juan Soto. And so in this proposal, it lays out almost the exact same type of stuff that I was talking about in a video that I posted 3 days ago. And that is the Red Sox wanting to come in, and if they land Juan Soto, it changes everything. Like, you don't go get Juan Soto and you're like, we're still going to be below the luxury tax. That is exactly what they told him in this meeting, is if you come and join us, we are going to go above the luxury tax. We're going to build around you. We're going to build around Rafael Devers, and we are going to make this team a World Series contender overnight. So let's run through this, and there's some pretty interesting things in here. So the article specifically says that the Boston Red Sox had a successful meeting with Juan Soto. Now rumors have started during the meeting, floated the idea of Soto of starting a super team like the LA Dodgers. Apparently, the Toronto Blue Jays first baseman and all-star Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was discussed in the meeting as well. Vladdy has 1 year left on his contract and has not been offered an extension, which is a little odd. According to Suriaco, the plan is for the Red Sox to sign Soto and either ace Max Fried or Blake Snell, then trade for Garrett Crochet as the second ace, trade for Vladdy as the right-handed slugger they need. Finally, they would meet with Roki Sasaki, the hottest international free agent player this offseason. The Red Sox have the 14th largest payroll this offseason, whereas they have consistently been in the top 5. The article kind of finishes up after that. One thing they did note in here is getting Vladdy seems a little far-fetched, as Craig Breslow said that they weren't going to trade Tristan Casas, which that is the biggest part of this that I don't think is going to happen. I don't think that they're going to trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because, one, he's within the division. Blue Jays, Red Sox traditionally haven't traded a ton with each other. So that's a little surprising that that's in this report to begin with. But on top of that, he is a year away from free agency. So it makes more sense to maybe just write out Tristan Casas to see if he can develop into that guy that, hits you 40 home runs anyway, 35, 40 home runs. He seems like that guy. He's got great patience at the plate. So, that would make sense. But I understand what they're saying to swap out Vladdy with Casas, because if he was to get swapped out, the righty-lefty matchup kind of makes a little bit more sense, because when you're talking righty-lefty, the Red Sox do have, a little bit of imbalance in their lineup with this. This is a document that I've been kind of bringing up all off-season. It's not quite updated because the Red Sox made a minor free agent signing, but this is essentially what the lineup does look like right now. And even if you were to swap out Abreu and say you do sign Soto here, which Soto probably would go like in that exact spot, there's still just a ton of lefties up in here. And so if you were to get rid of Casas and then you put Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and you put him in this 3-hole and then you slide Devers down, like it just balances out the whole lineup. It makes way more sense to kind of get a slugger like that than have Casas, who is probably going to end up being your number 5, number 6 hitter more often than not with this type of lineup if you get Juan Soto. And so that part does kind of make sense when it says you want to swap him out. I just don't agree with the Red Sox trading for him, because I don't know if a Casas Guerrero 1-to-1 swap could even happen at this point, because he had such a good year last season, Vladimir did. And I don't know if I'd really want to do that, because, then you're blowing the payroll off. There's a whole other aspect to this. It's adding a lot of payroll to the team when you're already adding a Juan Soto payroll to the team. So back to the report, though. We got kind of hung up on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So let's click on this link really quick, because this is what really takes you to the meat of it all. And this is exactly what was said during that 3-hour meeting. And so this is from the Skips View Dean. So he's an MLBX reporter on the Boston Red Sox. And I'm going to go ahead and say, I've heard of him before. I don't know of him as the guy that covers the Red Sox. He does have some sources within the organization, but it's not like you're hearing this reporting from Jeff Passan or somebody like that, or even like John Heyman. This is kind of like a more speculative report, in my opinion, when it kind of comes to what you're getting from Suriaco. Now, Could this be like exactly what was told? And maybe this is something that's kind of like trickled out there to a lesser source. That way, the Red Sox main sources don't have to, give out information that may or may not be false, but it kind of gives this guy an opportunity to talk about it. That's a possibility. But regardless, like the source is there. It's a little iffy source, but it's not like a totally unreliable source. This isn't a guy where it's just like he's making crap up. Like, no, this is a guy that, very possibly could have some legitimate sources. So in this, we have we talked about the Vladimir Guerrero portion of this. Trade for Garrett Crochet. This is exactly something that I proposed a couple days ago when I was talking my video. I said that you sign Juan Soto, you trade for Garrett Crochet, and then once you get those two pieces done, you can meet with Roki Sasaki after you sign Fried. Like, these are like almost word for word. It's like they watch my video in this tweet right here. But you don't go after Juan Soto and stop at Juan Soto. Like, again, it changes the organizational philosophy the Red Sox have been pumping out since essentially they traded Mookie Betts. Like we've been talking that they're going to increase payroll for a little while now. They've been saying that. They haven't proven it. When you look at the teams financially and they are dropping their payroll, it says right here, they're 14th in payroll after spending in the top 5 most of the 2000s, which is completely accurate. And you can talk crap with the organization all that you want, and I have in the past too, and I probably will continue to do so in the future until some of this stuff is actually realized when it comes to payroll and investing in players like they're talking about here. But you don't have this big meeting with Juan Soto unless you're semi-serious about it all, and this seems very serious about it all. And something else that I thought that was a little bit interesting and hasn't been brought up and I haven't talked about before on this channel is the Red Sox can give Juan Soto something that these other teams can't, and that is making Juan Soto the face of the franchise. So jumping over to this article really quick, we've got Juan Soto reportedly was impressed by the Red Sox in a productive first meeting. The Red Sox didn't make Soto a formal offer in their 3-hour meeting on Thursday, though. Now, that'll make sense. You're one of the first teams to meet with them. You don't necessarily need to jump in and be like, here's $550, $600 million right away when you're kind of still waiting to see where everybody else sits. But what I was kind of saying is the Red Sox can make Juan Soto the face of the franchise, and they made a montage talking about the Red Sox own history as their opening pitch to the All-Star. They presented Soto with a video of their history with star players from the Dominican Republic, according to Sean McAdam, who is one of the main Red Sox reporters. Soto, a Dominican native, said that in 2021, the Red Sox were his favorite team growing up due to David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and Pedro Martinez. Now, this, depending on the person, can be more important than you think. We already know that Rafael Devers, with the Red Sox, he is currently the face of the franchise, the best offensive player on the Red Sox, one of the most important players for this next decade, does not want to be the face of the franchise. He has repeatedly kind of indicated that I want to be somebody who is represented by my actions on the field. I want somebody to be able to look at me and be a leader for what I do on the field, not for what I do off the field. So he doesn't want to be the face of the franchise. He just wants to do what he needs to do offensively and be one of the best players in the league. Juan Soto, on the other hand, is more vocal of a player. And by bringing him in, you can make him the next David Ortiz on this team for the next 15 years. And if the Red Sox were his favorite team growing up, Juan Soto has been imagining this opportunity and this moment his entire life. I guarantee him walking into this meeting, he was walking in and he probably had butterflies in his stomach walking in and thinking about the idea of joining the Red Sox organization. Because how could you not? Like, imagine your favorite team growing up. And if you're a Red Sox fan watching this, it's probably the Red Sox. But imagine you walking in and being like, listen, we want to make you the face of this franchise. We want to do anything we can to land you. We want to give you $600 million. We want you to be here for the rest of your life, be a Hall of Famer, be one of the greatest players in baseball history, and sit next to David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and Pedro Martinez as the icons of this franchise, and hopefully surpass them. Because if he's got 15 years here, like, he could do more for this team than any of these players potentially did, just due to longevity. I mean, Pedro was one of the greatest starting pitchers of all time. I don't know if you can pass that necessarily when it comes to like peak performance, but David Ortiz was here for 15 seasons and did what he did, hit 450 home runs with the Red Sox, 500 home runs with the Red Sox, something pretty close to that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Soto could do that, and he could be better. He could be better than all of this. And I'm not saying that tugging at somebody's heartstrings is going to convince them to join the Red Sox for less money. That's not what I'm trying to say. But when you're weighing the balances, and say you have contracts, and this is so fine when it comes to contract negotiations in this type of situation, that if you have a similar offer from the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Red Sox. Now, obviously, he's played for the Yankees. I'm sure that he enjoyed his time with the Yankees. The Yankees just made the World Series. It's going to be hard to pry him away for the Yankees. But these are those small things that can take a similar type contract and balance it a little bit more out in your favor. Because forever with some of these free agents and what you're getting is the Red Sox are just not a part of a serious contention. The Red Sox are just are not going to be buying into this team. I mean, you had Kenley Jansen who joined the Red Sox, and they were promising to invest in the team 2 years ago. The Red Sox didn't invest in him. And Kenley was pretty pissed off this trade deadline. He was pretty pissed off heading into this offseason. If the Red Sox wanted to bring Kenley Jansen back right now, they would never be able to do it because he was essentially lied to by the organization. And so you can't do that to Juan Soto. And you wouldn't do that to Juan Soto, I don't think. And I can tell you right now, John Henry is tired of hearing what a piece of shit he is. And while I am also tired of having to talk about it as well, and while I don't have sympathy for billionaires when it comes to this and being able to handle a little bit of bad press, especially when you run the Red Sox organization, if John Henry's tired of hearing the crap and he's like, all right, go get the best player in baseball, I guarantee they're going to put more money into this team because they've done it before. They've done it before. It's not like you're bringing in a new owner and they're like, yeah, we promise, pinky promise we're going to do all of this. It's like, no, they've done it before. They will do it again. They're just being more fine-tuned about how they're doing this. And when they reset the team and they realize like, hey, we can pull out some of the resources from the Red Sox right now to go buy some other stuff, invest in the PGA Tour, invest in soccer. I think they just took advantage of that at the time. But now that we're cycling back into this next competitive window for the Red Sox, I think that they're tired of hearing the noise. They've got the money still to where they can do this. They've got the player they want to target. If they make this happen, everything can kind of change. So going back to this tweet again, I know that was a very long-winded point just talking about why Juan Soto potentially could join the Red Sox. But I think it's crucial to understanding the psyche here because, again, everything is just so close. It's so tight when it comes to these major contract negotiations. And giving somebody 10% more to be able to get them to sign on your team when it's at this level, it's not like you're giving somebody an extra $10 million a year. We're talking $60 million. And if that's like the difference that it would need to make something like this happen without some of this background stuff, $60 million is what makes and breaks a negotiation. So if you can offer the same contract that the Yankees are offering or the same contract that the Dodgers are offering, and he's still going to sign with the Red Sox, that is huge because then you don't have to overpay necessarily for what the rest of the market's going to go for. Now, I think if you're signing Soto, everybody's going to feel like it's an overpay to begin with, unless you can negotiate some sort of Ohtani deferral contract. But I thought that point was very important to make because I don't think everybody realizes exactly what goes into every negotiations here with these mega contracts. So trade for Garrett Crochet, that's the next portion of this. Now, this is something that, I have been advocating against to a degree when it comes to trading the top 4 prospects. But there was another big report that came out here just a few days ago, and that is that the White Sox appear okay with Wilyer Abreu headlining a potential deal for Garrett Crochet. Now, Abreu, this entire offseason has kind of felt redundant within the Red Sox lineup. Again, let's go back over here and show what this lineup kind of looks like. If you sign Juan Soto, Abreu's on the bench. Yeah, Abreu's going to be moved down to the bench, right? And Abreu is not a bench player. He's an everyday player. He's an everyday player on a very good team. He's just not Juan Soto. And so you can't have Duran, Soto, Abreu, Rafaela all start in the same team. And, some people argue that Rafaela could be the one to move. You could do that. Rafaela is very valuable. but he's also signed under contract. You've already extended him. And there's a logistical aspect to trading somebody who you just signed to a contract a year ago. That's like, you don't do that if you want other teams to, or other players to sign with you in the future, right? Because if you sign somebody and then you just trade them immediately, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, nobody's going to want to sign an extension because then you're just expendable to the team. It's like they're just using you as an asset. They're not using you as something that could potentially be part of this future for the Red Sox. And so, not only that, but the lefty-righty portion of it, like Abreu's left-handed. And again, we do have a lot of lefties here. It's not a big deal if you sign Soto and you have 3 lefties at the top of the lineup because Soto can hit lefties well. But if you have all lefties at the bottom of the lineup too, then it's like, what do we have? 7 lefties in the everyday lineup? You can't really do that. You can maybe get away with 6. We've been getting away with 6, but you can't do 7. Like, it's too many lefties to pump out there every single day. You're going to get exposed by left-handed relievers every single time they come in. So you trade Abreu as the headliner for the Garrett Crochet trade. And if they are okay with Crochet and Abreu being like the core of this deal, maybe you pump out Abreu and Franklin Arias and maybe like another minor prospect, somebody in like the 20s or 30s. I think that gets it done, to be honest. Because Abreu got 5 years of control. Franklin Arias is like a low-level prospect within the organization. Popping over to Sox prospects really quick. Franklin Arias is currently ranked the number 7 prospect. He's a shortstop that's 18 years old right now, but he is a top 100 prospect. He's ranked in like the 90s, basically across the board. And he's somebody who has the tool set to potentially be like one of the next top 10 prospects in all of baseball. Now, the thing about Franklin Arias is he is extremely good defensively. He's a glove-first player, and he had a really strong offensive year this last year. And that was something that people weren't expecting. You were kind of signing him to be like a backup shortstop or like a utility infielder. But if he can start hitting, and he already has a great glove, those are the players that become 5-tool players potentially, or 4 or 5-tool players. He may not ever develop into a 20 home run bat, but if the guy hits 12 or 15 home runs, gives you elite defense and can bat 280, 300, like that's still somebody who's going to be very serviceable at the big league level, which is kind of what his projections to be right now. And while that's great and all, he's 18 years old. He's not going to be ready for the big leagues for another 3 or 4 years probably. And so this is an asset that you are willing to trade because he's not ready for this next window of contention for the Red Sox. Whereas like the rest of these guys, Anthony Meyer, Campbell, Teal, they're all in AAA and they're all going to be in the big leagues by the end of this next season. You don't want to trade these guys right now because the window for the Red Sox opens like potentially this season, especially if you sign Soto. The door doesn't exist anymore. The door is gone because the Red Sox don't need a door anymore. They're going to be pumping more than just a Juan Soto in here. And so you want to try to keep most of these guys potentially for that next window and then trade who you can. Because if you get some production out of these guys, you can kind of figure out once they get to the big leagues a little bit more how they're going to be able to transition. And you might miss your window on being able to trade some of these guys when they're at peak value, and pretty much all of these guys are at peak value right now. You could argue Meyer's value is not as high, but he's still a top 10 prospect in baseball. Like, I don't know where everybody's getting these delusional ideas that, Meyer's expendable when he's the number 7 ranked prospect on MLB Pipeline. Like, he's still one of the best prospects in baseball. He's just had some on and off injury history, but he still had 335 plate appearances last year before he got injured. It's not like he played in 30 games and was out. He played most of the season and then they just shut him down because they're like, well, why bring him back for the last 4 games of the season when we can just have him sit out, rest, and be ready for the next year. They're all great players. You want to try to keep all these guys. If you trade Franklin Arias, you trade Wilyer Abreu, that's great. You get Garrett Crochet. I think that's the deal right there. Crochet for Abreu, Arias, that's a great deal in my mind. And so now you go after Blake Snell or Max Fried. That's the part that I'm not 100% sure on. I don't know. You can. And this would kind of be blowing it off the rails. Now, am I going to complain that they spend money and sign Blake Snell or Max Fried? No. These guys are great pitchers. Blake Snell, 2-time Cy Young winner. Max Fried, one of the best free agent pitchers available right now. Of course I'm going to be thrilled about it. But at the same time, I think that there are other options that you can do without having to go after Snell or Fried that are going to give you a little bit more budget space to be able to sign that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. next offseason, which I don't think you trade for Vlad Jr. I think you wait to see if he becomes a free agent and then you try to sign him. Now, I know you have that exclusive window of being able to sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to an extension, and if that's the plan, and you can trade Tristan Casas for Vlad Jr., and you're going to extend him. Like, he comes in and it's like, hey, we're going to give you a $220 million contract, and we want to extend you, which I think that his value is probably between 200 and 250. I'd be okay with that, because obviously at the end of the day, Vlad has proven what he can do when it comes to the big leagues. And whereas you have Casas, who has done a lot of great things, he hasn't come up and hit 30 home runs and put up a 6.2 WAR and had a 323 batting average and come in second place in the MVP when he hit 48 home runs. Like in 2021, he's on a 4-time All-Star. Like, it's ridiculous to think that Casas for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wouldn't make sense. And again, one of the big things, I don't even think I mentioned this in this video. Juan Soto is 26 years old this next season. These are the players they want to target. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's going to be 26 years old this next season. These are the type of guys that you're fine with extending. If you give Vlad a 10-year contract, and you give him a 10-year contract, and you give him $250 million a year, cool. Whatever. That's not a big deal. $300 million? Okay. He's off your books at like age 38. It's not like you're hanging on to this guy until he's a 100-year-old crippled man walking down the street, like Albert Pujols when he was signed until 42 years old and he was falling apart the last couple seasons before he had that really great season with the Cardinals in his final year. No, we're getting these guys, and their peak is basically their entire time with the Red Sox. Like, even if these guys start to go downhill at like 34, 35, which is, typical for a lot of players, you still got 10 years of these guys, 10 years of a contention window where these guys are just going to be some of the best players in all of baseball. 10 years where you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., where you have Rafael Devers, where you have Juan Soto as the anchors of your lineup for 10 years. Imagine having to go through the gauntlet of Juan Soto, followed by Vladimir Guerrero Jr., followed by Rafael Devers in your lineup for 10 years. Imagine the Red Sox facing Yankee pitching for 10 years with those three in the middle of the lineup. You thought that David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez was crazy? They had Mike Lowell batting behind him. They had J.D. Drew batting behind him. Kevin Youkilis was great for another year. These were the guys that were batting around him. They are not Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They are not that. That is not Rafael Devers batting in the 4-hole behind 2 elite offensive players. That is 3 straight players that can do damage every single day and absolutely destroy an opposing team's pitching staff for 10 years. Anybody who is second guessing this or against this at this point, I don't think that they're true fans, or they aren't thinking logically. The biggest hang up on this, obviously, is if you sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and say he's being paid $28 million a year, and Rafael Devers is being paid $28 million a year, and Juan Soto is being paid probably $45-50 million a year. That's like half your payroll before you hit the luxury tax, and that's a big concern. That's a big criticism. I totally get it. But at the same time, you can piece together all of the other offensive pieces around these guys, and you can work with lower level guys in the lineup and have David Hamiltons or Cedar Rafaelas or Jarren Durans who are making the minor league minimum, and you can start trading some of these guys as they start to make a little bit more money before they hit free agency, and that's how you can kind of constantly replenish the team. But if you have Soto, Devers, and Vladimir in this lineup, and then you're moving these guys around, and this is kind of what the lineup looks like, it's beautiful. I don't know what else to say. This top 4 in the lineup, this would be the best top 4 in the lineup. This would be better than the Dodgers, in my opinion. Yes, I know they've got Ohtani leading off, and then they got Freddie Freeman, and then they've got Mookie Betts. But what do you got after that? You don't have a fourth hitter. Jarren Duran put up 8.7 WAR last year. Juan Soto put up 7.9 WAR. Vladimir Guerrero put up 6.2 WAR. Rafael Devers hit 28 home runs in 2/3 of a season. Nobody can match what that top 4 in the lineup would be if the Red Sox can pull this off. And the pitching aspect of it, you can get away with mid-pitching and still win the World Series. But you know what you can't get away with in the World Series in a modern team? You need to have offense. Like 8 of the last 10 World Series winners have been in the top 5 in home runs per season. This gets you in the top 5 in home runs per season for the next 10 years. Just these 3 guys and the supplementary pieces that you have behind it. And you still got help coming. you still have help coming because you still have Anthony, Teal, Campbell, and Meyer coming up in the minor leagues. And even if you have to trade one of these guys because you want to make a big splash and you want to acquire another starting pitcher, and that's probably what you're going to have to do to acquire some of these starting pitchers, that's fine. That's okay. Because you have Juan Soto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Rafael Devers at the top of your lineup. Now, the last part about this is meeting with Roki Sasaki. So if you do all of these things, I'm going to go ahead and say that the trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it may or may not happen. I think if you float Casas out there, it's definitely a possibility. And, Craig Breslow did say that they're not going to do that type of trade earlier this year. But I think you hold those cards close to the vest. That's not necessarily something where you're going to be like, yeah, Casas is available. Like, you don't want to say that when Casas is the potential face of your franchise moving forward. If you don't sign Juan Soto, plan B changes. You need Casas in the lineup. You need him to be happy, and you don't want him to be thinking that he's going to get traded, because he's not going to get traded. Wink. Unless he gets traded for Vlad, which then, we just talked about it. You can kind of understand it. But if you do all of these other things, you trade for Garrett Crochet, you sign Max Fried, you sign Juan Soto. Roki Sasaki is also one of those guys potentially where you could look at it and it's like, does he want to be the star on his own team? Because the logic is that he's going to go to the Dodgers. That would totally make sense. Kind of frustrating as a fan. I would hate to be a Padre fan or Giant fan having to watch the Dodgers just suck up all this talent, especially from the Asian market where it's just like everybody wants to join the Dodgers because they want to play with Ohtani. Like, yeah, I get it. I mean, there's not much you can do about it right now. I wonder if that's actually something that could be negotiated in the next CBA where you can only have so many players from Japan on the same team at once. They do that in Japan. You can only have so many foreign ball players on your team. And so they potentially could even bring that up in the next CBA. I doubt it, but it's another talking point for a different day. But Sasaki could be somebody where it's like, I don't want to be third fiddle on the Dodgers just when it comes to the Asian market. I want to be like an ace. I want to be the guy. And if you get Sasaki, he could be a number one. Like, he's one of the best pitchers in all of professional baseball. So this is his stats real quick, in case you haven't seen them face to face, so you don't understand like how good this guy is. Now, I know this is not Major League Baseball, but he was dominating players in the World Baseball Classic too. These against Major League ball players. Like, he can do damage in the major leagues. Is he going to come up and post a 2.02 ERA like he's done in the 4 seasons that he's been in Japan? I doubt it. That'd be pretty insane. But at the same time, can he come up and post a 3 ERA? I totally think so. I think that's a regular 3 ERA type of guy. 10.5 strikeouts per 9 this last year, 11.4 for his career. Doesn't walk anybody, doesn't give up any hits, strikes out everybody. I think it's possible. And if you sign him, he's not going to cost a lot of money because he's coming over early. He's going to sign a contract that's not worth $300 million, which he's probably, another one of those guys that could be a $250, $300 million pitcher like Yamamoto was with the Dodgers. But he's not going to cost you that much. And I think, again, if you go back to this report one more time, like if you get Soto and you trade for Vlad, maybe, but you get Garrett Crochet and you get Snell or Fried before the signing period ends for Sasaki, which is January 15th, like, you theoretically could do all of this in the next, 2 months. And if you do all of this in the next 2 months, it would be the most legendary offseason in baseball history, probably. Probably one of the most legendary ones. I don't know if I can really think of something that's more impressive than this. I know the Yankees had a crazy offseason a while back when they signed like CC Sabathia and they got Mark Teixeira. And, the Red Sox have had big off seasons in the past too, where they've signed some big guys. The Pablo Sandoval and Carl Crawford off season was big. Whether it worked out at the time, it was big. This is something that could not only be huge, but it could pay off in the long term. This is something where it's like if you get Juan Soto, you get Vlad, you get Sasaki. Those are 3 players in their mid to early 20s that are going to potentially be here for the next 10 years. And it's just the core of the next decade of Red Sox baseball. And this has been a pretty intense video. And if you're still here, I appreciate it. And I hope you're feeling some of the passion that I'm feeling now. Because I'm obviously very passionate about my team. I care about the Red Sox. And I get frustrated when they aren't doing things. But seeing stuff like this, and if this was the type of proposal that was being made to Juan Soto, it's hard not to want to do it for Juan Soto being a Red Sox fan growing up. It's hard not to want to. And if the Red Sox can pony up and make a competitive offer and they knock that first domino down, which is Juan Soto, that domino crushes your house. You don't have doors on the house anymore, and you can go out and you can make these other big moves, and you can be ready to do everything to change this organization for the next 10 years. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm excited for. I think it's possible. Is it going to happen? Unlikely. I know I was talking about this like it was fact the whole time. This is still unlikely. But I'm creeping up my percentage a little bit for Juan Soto siding with the Red Sox. It's been sitting at like 2 to 5%. I'm getting it closer to like 5 to 10%. And if you sign Juan Soto, you get that 5 to 7%. Say we pump into that universe where that 5 to 10% actually happens. I think the rest of this thing happening, you just flip a coin with all of these things, and it potentially could happen. I think trading for Garrett Crochet, I think that's almost a fact right now. Unless somebody else comes in with a bigger offer, if they're fine with Willie Abreu, I think that that's like a 75% chance the Red Sox trade for him right now, just because it makes the most sense and they have the most need for him. Trading for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., even after they signed for Juan Soto, that's still, I would say, unlikely. Maybe a 20 to 30% chance, but it's possible if you pony up the right assets. If you're willing to trade Casas for it, and you can throw in a couple other prospects, it's hard to say no if you're the Blue Jays if you don't think you're going to be able to extend him, which is a little odd that they haven't tried to extend him yet. Blake Snell or Max Fried. If you want to go after one of those two guys, you can get one of those two guys. If you're the Red Sox, you can. It's just about money at that point. But you could get one of those two guys. I totally think you could. Roki Sasaki, that's probably the biggest if in this. But again, if you've already made, 2 or 3 of these moves happen, if you've already signed Juan Soto and say you've traded for Garrett Crochet before Sasaki is picking a team, it's hard not to see what the Red Sox are doing and try to buy into that. And if he wants to be the head of a franchise, if he wants to be the head of a pitching staff, it makes sense. It makes sense that the Red Sox could be an option. And so for all this to happen, we'd be living in the 1% universe where all of this does come to pass. But again, that percent is still there. And when you're talking 1%, like if you've got a 1% chance of going out and dying in a plane crash on the next flight, you don't want to hop on that plane. That's you're not flying if 1% of the time you're going to die in that plane crash, right? If it's big enough odds to be worried about in that sense, it's big enough odds for me to talk about for the last 20-25 minutes in this video, which I appreciate you guys all for staying here. I am going to wrap it up at this point. We've kind of covered everything very well. If you guys liked what I was saying here, leave some comments in the comment section. I'm here to talk to you. I want to hear what you guys are thinking. Am I too crazy when I'm coming to the possibility of this even potentially happening? Are you guys so jaded to where this isn't even a possibility for you anymore after the Red Sox have won 4 World Series in the past 20 years? They've invested in the past, guys. They're going to again in the future. Whether it's going to take another year for it to happen or if it's going to happen this year, it's going to happen soon. I really do believe it. And I think that the Red Sox have a bright future ahead of them soon. And I'm really excited to see what they do in the next 5 years on the field, that is. So again, thank you for watching this video. It's been a lot of fun. I will see you next time. We've got some more content coming out here as we go through the off season. So make sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with that if you enjoy it. And I will see you next time. Bye.